My dad's wife found out 6 weeks ago that he's been cheating on her for years. They have 3 kids together and she had no idea he was cheating. His wife, who I'll call Anne for this post, was my dad's affair partner when he was married to my mom. I was like 8 when we found out, and how that happened was Dad brought Anne over to pick up his stuff because he wanted to move in with her. Neither of them gave a shit that I was there. A few weeks later my mom died, car accident, and I moved in with my dad and Anne, but I didn't look at either of them in a positive light. I still don't, and I'm 17 now. Anne and I butted heads a lot over the years. She would talk about deserving more respect, and I told her she was just the lady my dad cheated on mom with and she'd never be more than that in my eyes. I told her I didn't respect her as a person or as a supposed family member. Dad tried to get me to see him more positively at first, but when he realized I'd asked the big questions like why he did that to my mom and me, he stopped trying. I always assumed he found a new mistress but didn't have proof until a year and a half ago when I saw him with another woman. I said nothing and I carried on waiting for the day she found out. There were times I wanted to rub it into her face so bad, but I didn't. I was laughing at her behind her back, and I'll admit that. When Anne found out, she kicked Dad out and I moved out with him. This was seen as a controversial choice because Anne wanted me to stay, and since everything went down, Anne has wanted me to visit her and wanted me to be with her and Dad's kids. I'm not close to the kids and don't really care about having a relationship with them. Last week Dad brought me by Anne's place to pick up more of his/our stuff. Anne's family were there and Anne and her family were scolding me for choosing Dad over Anne and saying Anne deserved my support. That they couldn't believe I'd picked Dad's side over hers. I said I picked neither side. But Anne means nothing to me, so I'm not going to do shit for her. Anne's mom told me Anne was a victim. I told them she cheated with a married man and shouldn't be shocked that he'd do the same to her, because she's nothing special. They kept engaging with me and my dad was taking his sweet-ass time. Anne decided to talk to me one-to-one and asked me to stand by her and support her and help her give the kids a good life and show we're still a family. I laughed in her face. Anne started to cry. Her family asked her about it and she told them I'd laughed. They called me disgusting and cruel and said I should be ashamed of treating someone in my family that way. Anne's sister sent me a few DMs before I locked down my socials, but she said I should apologize to Anne and be there for her now to make up for my reaction to her. She told me to be a better man and not some pathetic child who blames the woman for stuff. Comment 1. NTA in this situation, but you had better get a handle on your emotional state. You are totally right. She doesn't get to be the affair partner and then demand support from the first family she helped break up. However, don't let you asshole of a dad turn you into an asshole too. It's not okay that you treated Anne like this, but given all she had a hand in putting you through, it's understandable. If you acted this way to literally anyone else, you would be an absolute monster. Best of luck to you, OP. So sorry about your mom. Comment 2. Hard disagree. Anne is trying to make OP take sides in a fight that isn't his. She tried to force him to respect her despite her role in breaking his mom's heart. She thinks he's entitled to his support based on nothing. Laughing at her request is a mild reaction. OP didn't react this way to just anybody. I don't get all the hate about his reaction. He's NTA. Comment 3. NTA. You behaved better than I would. I'd have massively rubbed it in her face. You were really quite restrained. Tell her if she doesn't leave you alone, you'll tell the kids. After all, you were old enough to discover it at 8, surely hers are around the same age? Maybe that'll get her to leave you alone. I, 27F, am getting married to my fiancé, Raj, 29M, in a couple of months. We are having a traditional, lavish Indian wedding, which has been a dream of mine since childhood. I grew up in a mixed household. My father is Hindu and my mother is Christian. While we celebrated both religions growing up, I've always felt more connected to my father's Hindu traditions. My sister, Sarah, 25F, is also getting married around the same time. She identifies more with our mother's Christian faith and is planning a traditional Christian wedding. Recently, Sarah approached me, expressing concerns that our weddings being close together might overshadow hers, especially since mine is more extravagant and involves multiple days of celebration. Sarah asked if I could either tone down my wedding, consider postponing it, or even make it a fully Christian ceremony to balance things out. She believes that having two weddings so close together, with one being significantly grander, would take attention away from hers and create unnecessary stress for our family, who will have to juggle both events. I told her that I understand her concerns, but I've been planning this wedding for over a year, and it means a lot to me to have it the way I've always imagined. I also pointed out that our cultural backgrounds are different, and both weddings will be special in their own ways. Additionally, postponing my wedding would be a huge inconvenience and financial burden for us, given the extensive preparations and bookings already in place. Our wedding dates are 3 weeks apart. We have separate guest lists, but there is some overlap with close family and mutual friends. My mother is siding with Sarah and believes I should change my wedding to a fully Christian ceremony or at least incorporate significant Christian elements. My father, on the other hand, supports my decision and believes that both of us should have the weddings we want. Sarah was very upset and accused me of being selfish and not caring about her feelings. She thinks I'm prioritizing my wedding over our family's well-being. My mother has started going overboard, constantly criticizing my decision and even threatening not to attend my wedding unless I change it to a Christian ceremony. She's been calling extended family members to persuade them to side with Sarah and boycott my wedding if I don't comply. My father supports my decision and believes that both of us should have the weddings we want. He has been trying to mediate, but the situation is getting more tense by the day. Sarah and I have always had a complicated relationship, and while we support each other, there's often been underlying tension due to our different personalities and choices. Now, I'm feeling torn. I don't want to hurt my sister or cause any family rift, but I also don't want to sacrifice my dream wedding. Also not in her bridal party or any other things but her wedding as I have mine. Also I inherited a lot from great-grandfather as he was Hindu and he gave it to me as I was as well. I gave my sister 40% of what he gave me and no one is helping with wedding costs. Comment 1. Whichever of you booked your wedding date second is definitely a bit of a hole for booking it in the same damn month as their sister. That aside, given that the dates were done and decided a long time ago, no, you absolutely shouldn't have to either tone down your wedding or change it to a Christian one to meet your sister or mother's unreasonable demands. Comment 2. That's my thought too. Whomever picked the date second, but also if she has been planning it for over a year, if sister picked first, why did she wait so long to request a date moved? Mom is an extreme R. Telling family members not to attend. Go North Carolina with your mama after this. That's some intense toxicity. Comment 3. For those asking. Typically in Hindu weddings, an astrologer picks the dates for weddings and it's not normally the couples who choose based on special reasonings, like getting married on your anniversary/birthday so on, so asking who picked first is a moot point because even if OP booked after her sister, the date was likely not chosen by her or her soon-to-be husband but by a third party. And for people going to ask why they couldn't change it, date picking is weird. There are many days considered bad luck for getting married and days considered good luck, so it could very well be if that this date wasn't chosen, the next date could be a year or 2 from that date. I get that similar questions have been asked here, but I feel my situation is slightly different. I'm very particular. I may actually be on the spectrum, but I most definitely have OCD. My parents were extremely restrictive with food growing up, and I never learned to cook. My boyfriend is usually very sweet. He loves cooking. So he does all of the cooking, and I clean up after. Well, we broke up once and our breakup was over a latte he made me. I eat and drink everything in a very specific way and usually don't like a lot of extra bells and whistles. There were other factors that added to the breakup. I wouldn't dump him over just a latte lol, but it started the conversation because he made it for me and added a bunch of things I don't like. I told him that it makes me feel like he thinks he knows what I want/need better than I do. He does it because he thinks I'll like it better. Which is not true, and I've explained this many times. Tonight, he made me ramen. I told him I'd make it myself, but he insisted. He started to list off everything he could put in it, and I told him just eggs and green onion would be enough. I did not want sesame or anything else. Well, he added in sesame oil and garlic and a bunch of other things, which led to me not liking it. I understand I have no taste, but I just can't eat food if it's not a certain way. My brain malfunctions. The sesame gives it a different flavor that makes me feel sick for some reason. I'm not allergic to anything, it's just that certain flavors and textures are very off-putting to me. So now I'm sitting here, wondering if I should mention it to him again. I don't want to make him feel unappreciated, but I just don't understand how I can tell him I have this problem so many times, and him still do this even after I say I don't like it. Maybe I just need to get over it, and maybe I need to work on my food issues. I definitely need to work on my food issues. But I still think he should consider what I like and take my problem seriously. I'm at a loss for how I can get him to understand this. What do you guys think? Comment 1. This is really weird behavior. If you ask for something a certain way and he purposely makes it differently, you need to call him on it. Every time tell him that isn't what you wanted and he needs to stop deciding you'll like what he thinks you should like more than what you like and asked for. Otherwise he'll think that you liked it his way and he should keep doing it. Comment 2. If you are so limited in what you will eat, then the simplest way to solve the issue is be in charge of your own food. Learn to cook for yourself rather than rely on someone whose tastes are different than your own and who wants more variety in their diet. Especially if it's been a problem in the past to the point that you break up over it. Comment 3. NTA. You straight up have a BF problem. He is disrespecting you. You have told him multiple times that this is an issue for you, yet he still does it. He doesn't care. He has you believing that this is a you problem when it is a him problem. I think you have a choice to make. Either he straightens up and flies right from now on, no messing your food, period. Or you're done. And mean it. Or, if you've already had enough, just tell him you're done. But really mean it. 20 years ago, my grandmother promised my brother an apartment before she passed away. She registered him there without my grandfather's knowledge. In our country, this is often considered equivalent to ownership rights, though it's not entirely so. My grandfather was living in the United States at the time and rarely visited. My father and brother started renovating the apartment together. However, when my grandfather returned to Poland and discovered that my brother was registered there, he decided to have him legally deregistered without his knowledge. For several years, my grandfather only visited my father's sister's family and had a strained relationship with our side of the family. My brother got offended and stopped talking to him altogether. Eventually, my father and grandfather reconnected, and my grandfather decided to write a will leaving the apartment to my father upon his death. Sadly, my father passed away, and my grandfather made a new will, bequeathing the apartment to my brother. Unfortunately, my brother is an alcoholic, and my grandfather started worrying that after his death, my brother might squander the apartment. My grandfather gave my brother an ultimatum that he had to be sober during his next visit, or he would leave the apartment to someone else. Of course, my brother started drinking again before my grandfather's visit. My grandfather gave him a second chance, but my brother drank again before his arrival. My grandfather then decided to leave the apartment to me because, apart from my mother, only my wife and I kept in regular contact with him. After my grandfather's death, I took care of bringing his ashes back, arranging the funeral, and handling the inheritance matters. The apartment is about to be officially transferred to me, but my brother claims he deserves half because that was our grandmother's wish and because he invested in renovating the apartment. We have now agreed that I will transfer the apartment to my daughter when she comes of age, and he has agreed to this, but he wants access to the apartment in the meantime. I fear that he might move in, start drinking there, and I will end up having to pay the bills. Comment 1, NTA. The apartment's in Poland, which means the following. If he stops paying bills, then you as the owner will be forced to pay them. You will not be able to evict him unless the city arranges social housing for him. This is incredibly unlikely seeing as he's an adult male with a drinking problem. So he'll be on the waiting list for social housing, assuming he's even eligible, for years. Courts take forever to do anything, so it'll take ages to try to evict him in the first place. Comment 2. NTA. That is exactly what he would do. Maybe grandma wanted him to have the apartment before he became an alcoholic. Your best bet is to agree on a certain amount that he paid to help renovate it, then pay him back, keeping the apartment to yourself. Comment 3. NTA. Your grandfather made it clear that his conditions for leaving the apartment to your brother were being met, and those conditions weren't met. Just because their grandmother promised the apartment to your brother doesn't mean he has a right to it. It sounds like you've been more than reasonable in trying to find a compromise by agreeing to transfer the apartment to your daughter when she comes of age. Your brother needs to respect his grandfather's wishes and the conditions that were set out for him. If he can't do that, then maybe he shouldn't be getting any part of the apartment at all.